The school serves the Wyburn estate, which was built 40 years ago in Sheffield's first slum clearance scheme. Whole streets were moved en masse to these terrace houses, now overshadowed by the modern blocks. A social study of the estate some years ago found that jobs there had not changed over the years. They were still mainly labourers or non-skilled manual workers. The survey found that each year, out of about 100 pupils from the estate who sat the 11 plus, only 2 or 3 reached grammar school. In the country as a whole, 16 out of 100 would have gone. These children saw little relation between their lessons and their work afterwards, and were invariably keen to get out in the world as soon as possible. In general, the survey found the estate was considered as a centre of crime and violence by the rest of the city, and the residents had no illusions about this. The school shared this reputation, but the appointment of the new headmaster was the opportunity for radical changes.
The first point is to attempt in some way to get these youngsters feeling they've got a very real stake in the school. Our first move was to encourage the young people to engage in redecorating the school, reconditioning the furniture, girls making curtains and so on. This meant that the older adolescents who had decorated the school, who had put the school into ship-shape order, made it a pleasant place to be in, they, because they'd been involved in this, they jolly well saw to it that other people did not spoil their work. We broke away from the traditional classroom pattern. I think we're all agreed now that this is extremely wasteful, inefficient in educational terms. And so we broke away from the classroom pattern and had devised a system of what we call flexible grouping. We have no time for any streaming or setting or grouping in terms of any kind of measurability. We think this is manifestly wrong.
Now, the process of streaming means that the A-stream children, you tell them that they're very bright, and they develop a sort of superiority feeling. They think they're superior to all the rest. Whereas the C-stream children, they're told they're very dull and stupid, and they develop a feeling of inferiority. And of course, they become inferior because this is what's expected of them. And this is why teachers and educators are now very critical of the whole process of streaming and trying to do away with it.
This class is social studies, a mixture of geography, history and English. It's an example of one way team teaching works. After an introductory talk by the teacher, the pupils use reference books to find out for themselves about South America. The informal layout is deliberate, and so is the approach to the material. The emphasis is not on exercise books filled with notes, but on creating a desire in the children to discover things for themselves. The teacher acts as a guide and is available to clarify or enlarge on points.
Locks.
In the classroom situation where one teacher is in charge of 30, 40 youngsters, there is bound to be a certain amount of restriction in the situation because the teacher feels that there must be control, you see, order, and a restriction of the kind of activities which can go on in this room. But what is worse, there's a kind of paralyzing of the imagination. Anything which is off at a tangent, there's no strong element of spontaneity. There cannot be in order that the teacher be in control of the situation. But in the team teaching situation where you have several teachers in charge, you can capitalize on this element of spontaneity because one of the teachers will always have time to pursue this. There is therefore no paralyzing of the imagination or crippling of the imagination.
The old system that we all experienced where the teacher's up there teaching the children and the children are listening to him and doing what he says. We've got to get away from that situation, which was based on the idea that all those children were of equal intelligence. Well, it's now obvious that they weren't, and this in itself was inhibiting. And we've got to develop a situation where the children can exercise their own initiative and where they can work in groups or as individuals and really form part of teamwork or team projects and utilize the resources which a school has available in their own way. So it does in fact mean putting more responsibility on the children for a certain degree of self-direction in their own education.
Wyburn opposes this type of rigid classification and rejection, but they do take care to check the children's progress and the success of the system by conventional school standards.
That we've built into what we're doing here a system of tests. They're supplied to us from outside the school so that there's no lining them up particularly with what the youngsters have done. And the results show quite clearly that the attainment levels of all children have risen. The very bright children have gone ahead much further than we would have expected. And the children who came to us unable to read and write are now working at a reasonable level.
What does that mean, x to the power of 3? Yes?
X times x times x.
It means x times x times x. Powers of x. Now, our logs aren't based on powers of x, but they are based on powers. Powers of what? Who can remember? What's the number on which the log is based? Yes? 10. 10.
The pheasant has a very long tail, possibly to enable it to balance, because if you look at it, a large proportion of its weight is well forwards. Notice where the feet are, they are fairly well back.
The team teaching system operated at the school may mean that one teacher lectures to a very large group, freeing others to deal with other smaller groups elsewhere. Or teachers may jointly supervise the large group, bringing a range of skills to the one class.
Its feet are centrally placed, and so there isn't the great need to provide the weight at the back.
There's an opportunity here for every youngster to taste success. In fact, if any of our youngsters don't taste success, then we've failed them, because they're all capable of succeeding somewhere. So what I would like to discuss this afternoon is the kind of activity which we can put on, which is an alternative to going to the field. Has anybody got any suggestion? Let us take Tuesday now. The games session on a Tuesday. Anybody got any ideas about what alternatives we could put on a Tuesday other than the rounders? Yeah.
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics, yeah. How many of you are interested in that? All right, fair enough. Well, we'll try that. But you know what the problem is here? The problem is finding somebody who's expert in gymnastics. Any other ideas? Anybody interested in taking up bowling for a few weeks? Right? Well, we can arrange that. Now, how about financing it? That's the problem. You must come to me privately if you would find difficulty in finding the shilling each week, and we'll come to some arrangements over that. Anybody interested in free-fall parachuting?
It's this continuous participation that's at the heart of Mr. Bland's approach. But he emphasises it's the approach and attitudes of the staff that make a school work, rather than any particular individual personalities. His own experience includes teaching in a variety of types of school, as well as 5 years in the Army Education Corps.
Would you please remember that nothing is ever perfect in this life, and we shall not solve anything by bickering at one another. I went to town on the third-year girls recently. Yesterday, I think it was, about the row in the changing room and coming up and down the staircase. And they made me feel very ashamed when they sent me 30 or 40 letters handed into me last night, which I took a long time of reading. I felt very ashamed of the fact that I'd really not seen things from both points of view, and that's one of the lessons we've got to learn in life, to see things from not only our own point of view, but somebody else's point of view. But I'm going to ask you, please, you are, after all, the senior students in the school, to watch this business of noise and behaviour on the corridors. The behaviour isn't bad, and I'm not saying that, but sometimes it's just a little bit too much like a Women's Institute meeting, or forgive me, no. Women's Institute is a very fine organisation, but you know what I mean.
The interesting thing to look at now are those schools which are trying to find a way of involving the children effectively in their education, so that disciplinary methods, in a sense, fall away. And this, I think, is something which is happening, although I wouldn't like to underestimate the difficulties involved in doing this. But certainly I think that there are many schools, and I think Wyburn School is one, although I've not visited it, where they're able to get this involvement of the children in the school, and this affects the discipline. I would say myself also that the abolition of streaming is very important from this respect.
Very often, if a school is streamed, we expect the so-called C stream to operate at a certain level. We put a limit on the level. We expect the C streamers to provide us with disciplinary problems, and sure enough, we get what we expect. By agreeing, the staff agreeing, that we should expect certain codes, certain standards, this is what we get now. Youngsters here are quite capable of working for long periods of time without any direct adult supervision. They know that we expect a code of behaviour, and they work to that end.
Mr. Bland trusts us. I think he's put his faith in all pupils at school. You know, when you know that teachers got faith in you, you behave, but if you think that every time you're behind the back, you think that you're going to wreck something, you start thinking, oh, they're right snides, so you start busting things up. But when you think that they've got your faith in you, it's all right. You know, you're not snobbish, like, sort of thing. You know, if you start, say if somebody swears, they'll swear back at you and say, does that sound nice? You know, and it doesn't. And then you just understand, but before they'd probably just wallop you.
At other schools, they've got certain people telling everybody else what to do. And if you don't do that, you're sent to head and punished for it, but not here. Don't have prefects at all.
Do you like the prefects at the other school?
No.
Why not? What do they do?
Because they think they've got authority. You take it out of anybody and they make you do everything what they want you to do.
The school isn't perfect. It's far from perfect. And now and again, young people, because they're emotionally upset or because they feel that there is an injustice somewhere, now and again, young people will be antisocial. Antisocial behavior will manifest itself. Now, what do we do in a case like that? Well, first of all, we must always look at the situation, always look at the person and try to see it from that person's point of view. If the youngster is unreasonable, then we attempt to point out the fact that they have been unreasonable.
If the teachers can make the school an open institution, if they can have a sort of welcoming approach to parents who are able to come in, you know, when they have problems and discuss it with the teachers, and don't feel that it's an institution that's separated from them, then I think the child will gain very much, because everybody knows, you know, that how a child develops depends very much on his relations with his parents and with the teachers. And therefore, it's very important to get parents and teachers together, working together in relation to the education of the child.
Last 3 years, we've known more about what our children's doing at school than we've ever known all the time that school's been opened. Since Mr. Bland and teachers have took over, they don't work as head teacher and teachers, they work as a team. They've got, as children get more outings now in summer, what they never used to get. They go to Skegness.
The parents have come to feel strongly that Wyburn is their school. Now that it's closing, they're campaigning to keep it open. At a meeting, they talked about their experiences of the school over the years and why they wanted to carry on.
Children, there's more contentment with children because the teachers have got more time for them. School doesn't finish at 4 if children want to stop. Teachers are willing to stop learning music lessons and different things that children are interested in. It's not too much trouble for teachers to help them with.
It used to be like this.
Oh, no. No. Oh, no. That's only just changed recently. When they used to come out at school at 4 o'clock, those gates were locked unless they climbed over and then they got run with caretaker. Well, now there's none of that. Them gates are open and there's a teacher there to see to them.
They don't believe in cane and punishment. They've only to talk to them and they'll know. They understand. I mean, they do get punished now and again for the things that they do wrong. But there again, they do get punished at home for the same things. But the teachers are good with them.
They can go and talk, as Mr. Norfolk said, woman to teacher. Well, we couldn't.
What do you think is the most important change which has happened?
Main thing is children are contented and parents are contented.
I'm afraid I'd have to go back to learn what they learn.
What sort of thing?
I'm mesmerised at different things what I see as I'm cleaning in that school. What they've done, you know, different things. Paintings is beautiful. We never had that when we were at school. They didn't bother about you.
But I went to Wyburn school and I didn't know what sex was when I was 15.
Slow down.
I found out since, but my daughter told me a few things that I didn't know.
What do you think the motives of the Education Committee are for closing the school?
Oh, they're just using their theories, aren't they? It's because nobody's bothered to fight before. They've just stood and took what they've given out. Well, I think it's about time that we stuck up for us children.